Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session from Evolving Solutions and NetBrain on keeping your business connected when it matters. I'm Michael Downs. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Evolving Solutions, and I will be your host for today. Joining me today from NetBrain is Raj Jain. Raj is a solution architect for NetBrain. He focuses on making sure clients can prevent network outages and reduce the duration of those incidents through intent-based automation, which is the key component of NetBrain's solution, and looking forward to hearing more about that today. But before we jump into that, I want to share with you a little bit about who Evolving Solutions is. But Evolving Solutions is a technology solution provider based here in the Minneapolis area, covering clients nationally. We modernize and automate people's mission-critical applications and help them adopt what we call modern operations. So modern operations really consists of being able to take the new world that we're in, this hybrid cloud world that includes things like connectivity between your data center and the cloud, between all of your remote locations and a data center, between people who are working at their home office and might have that being their only way to connect, making sure that those new challenges of this new world are integrated into the processes and procedures and the experience and tools that you've built as an organization over the time that you've been supporting technology for your businesses. And most importantly, making sure that that technology is available, reliable, secure, and performing, and delivers the business value that your clients expect, your business expects, so that they get the value out of their IT technology. Today, we're really focused on this data access and connectivity quadrant, but like most pieces of our modern operations approach, all of these things interconnect. So as Raj will get into, there's a strong correlation between data access and connectivity and just the high value that automation provides in that space. So I'm going to turn it over to Raj and let him dig into the meat of today's presentation.
All right. Thank you so much, Michael, for that great introduction. Hey, everyone. My name is Raj. I've been with NetBrain for 7 years now, and very excited to present today's solution to you. Some of you must be aware of what NetBrain is, and I also understand that a lot of folks joining us are looking at NetBrain for the first time. So just to kind of give you a high-level idea, NetBrain is an automation platform, which can help you definitely map and document your network. But then not just that, it also has intelligence built into it, with the help of which it can help you scale across a large network and perform automation tasks. And in this slide, I'm going to spend a couple of minutes talking about this because this is very important before we jump into the demo. So what do we do? Number one, we discover your network. Now, your network could be a traditional network, okay, but it's rare to find a client or a company that is completely 100% traditional today, right? People are moving towards the cloud. They've got some kind of a software-defined technology, either to save costs or increase the availability. And it has become a little bit of a challenge to go troubleshoot a hybrid network, because now we need experts from different domains putting their heads together to go solve a problem. And this is something NetBrain can definitely help you with. So NetBrain is a multi-vendor hybrid platform with the help of which it can go discover your traditional network, and not just that, but then also your cloud infrastructure. And today we support the major public clouds, AWS, Google, GCP, and Azure, and we're also working on a couple more, and we can definitely support your private clouds as long as you have access inside of the network. We also support technologies such as Cisco ACI, VMware, NSX. They all fall under the SDN, and of course SD-WAN, such as Viptela, VeloCloud, Versa, etc. So that's one way to build intelligence into the platform. The second way, which is definitely more interesting to me, is we do something known as a incident analysis for our customers. And we've come to a conclusion that a lot of these tickets are repetitive in nature. So what we want to do is we want to put all this intelligence inside of NetBrain in such a way that whenever there's a problem, NetBrain knows that what is the step that NetBrain needs to perform in order to help you diagnose that problem. So this way we can reduce all of that escalation and all of that idle time of the ticket sitting there. So we build that intelligence through your past incidents and your troubleshooting know-hows. And the way we use them is there's three categories to use NetBrain. Number one, we've got our very famous dynamic maps, amazing maps. These are not your static visuals, so you can move things around, you can log into devices, you can run automation, all of that from that map. Secondly, we have a concept known as network intent. And network intent is nothing but the DNA of your network. It's the baseline of your network. So with all this intelligence that we see on the left is built into a network intent. So let's say, for example, I want to make sure all of my routes are did not change on my critical routers, okay? And there's a baseline to it. So whenever there's a change, whenever there's a baseline violation, the network intent can go open a ticket or maybe send you an email saying that, hey, looks like something has violated a policy. Lastly, we also have our executable runbooks, which are amazing because runbooks think of runbooks as these instruction sets that you had back in the day, right? A big binder. When I went to troubleshoot my first company, I used to work for an investment bank. They had the SharePoint folder with these hundreds of know-hows, and I'm like, okay, so what am I supposed to do from this, right? So what you can do here is you can build an executable runbook. So next time you have a problem, right? Let's say you have a voice problem. Great, I'm going to go use a voice runbook, which has 1, 2, 3, 4 steps to go solve that voice problem. So we can take all of this automation and build that into a runbook. Okay, and these are the things that I want to talk to you guys about today. And eventually our goal is what? Our goal is to reduce that mean time to repair. Our goal is to prevent business impact. And that's huge. Think about it. Let's say I've got a problem. There's a config drift in the network due to which nothing urgent, but let's say a few months down the lane there's a failover, and now my application never failed over. It went down because 3 months ago someone made a bad change in the network on the failover device. So there's so many things that could go wrong in the network, which can lead to these business impacts. And we want to go, with the help of network intent, find these problems even before they become major problems. And last but not the least, we are a no-code platform. We're not expecting you to come in and start scripting, right? We have a lot of these self-service automation tools inside of NetBrain, with the help of which even someone like me, I'm not a big fan of coding myself. Even someone like me can just go in there and then start playing with these and then create automation, a very, very detailed automation. And I'm going to talk about these. So moving on, what's our mission? Like I said, one of the things that keeps every engineer awake is these transient problems, a lot of stuff going down, outages and whatnot. And there's hundreds and thousands of these tickets coming in, lots of escalations. And then we realized that I've worked at NOC, and I understand that we spend a lot of resources in solving these problems. It's not just the outage that's costing us money, but it's also this engineer's time, right? And we're spending a lot of money on that. So the problem is this, and this is what we've come to a conclusion with. A lot of these incidents are repetitive in nature. Like we don't always get creative problems in the network, right? Like say for example, slow application, right? Slow application is such a common problem. It just keeps coming in, but on different devices and different applications. So if I have a way in NetBrain to deal with slow application, guess what? Most of these slow application tickets could be taken care directly by NetBrain. And this is what we want to do for you. We want to go automate these 95% of these tickets coming in, network related tickets, so that you don't have to waste time in identifying problems and whatnot. Secondly, we want to set policies and baseline alerts for your network in such a way that a lot of these problems could be prevented. Right? Why do you have these outages? Why do you have these slowness? Because something led to it, unless it's a security attack. Something led to it. So we want to make sure that we help you prevent a lot of these problems. And that's our mission. And the way we do that is by, number one, we go capture information about your network. This could be the visibility portion. This could be your policies. This could be your configuration, your performance policies and whatnot. Secondly, we want to verify these for you. And this is an ongoing process. So let's say a problem happens. I'm going to go verify all of the policies, making sure that nothing changed in my policies. Okay. Hey, someone made a config change and now 3 applications went down. Great. can we, as soon as the config change happens, can we go validate all of our critical applications, making sure that none of these goes down, right? So being more proactive about it. And last but not the least, enforcing it. We can run timers. We can run probes in the back. Do not confuse NetBrain to be a monitoring platform, because monitoring tools are amazing. They do 24/7 up down status and whatnot. But here at NetBrain, we want to monitor things that really matter, right? The performance, the security, the reliability, detailed stuff. So that's how we enforce these intents. So what are these network intents? Now, talking about, let's take a technical deep dive into understanding what this intent is. And even if you're sitting on this webinar and you're not technical, this is very simple to understand. So an intent is like a policy. Okay, and you get to create this for a device. So let's say I found this one device I want to set a alert for. I'm going to go select that device, and then I'm going to select the data that I need from that device. In this example, we're just making sure that all of our duplex are set to full duplex. Anything half needs to be alerted us with, right? Because we don't want to be at a point where we're creating a lot of collisions and whatnot. So we found the device, we got the data, and now we got to set a diagnosis for it. As simple as that. Because a lot of times all of this looks like magic, like, hey, ticket comes in and then NetBrain picks it up and solves it for you. It sounds like it's magic, right? But there's always some kind of logic driving that magic. And this is what the logic is. We need the device, the data from that device, and some kind of a diagnosis in order to find out whether that data is good or bad. And the cool part is this. I can take that intent from that one device and I can apply this to the rest of my network. I've personally worked with companies with over 200,000 network devices, right? Huge giants. I worked with a lot of domains. I work with software. I work with IT. I work with healthcare. And this is a common problem, right? If you have large networks, scaling up is a really big challenge with a lot of the tools, the network tools available outside. Here at NetBrain, you do something once and then you replicate that throughout the network because you're building a template for this kind of a check. Which means if you have, let's say, 10,000 switches and routers, with one click of a button, you can find out of all these 10,000 devices, how many devices and what interfaces are misconfigured or configured with like a half duplex or something like that. And that's incredible. Like imagine the amount of time it saves you to do all of this. So that's what a network intent is. Okay, but moving forward, again, I promise the last couple slides that I'm going to jump into the product. A few things that I speak to customers and clients every day, and I get to learn about a lot of the challenges and problems out there in the market. And these are a few intents that we've actually built for our friends. Number one, I'm not going to go through all of them, but just to kind of give you an example, right? Monitoring critical link failovers, security policies, enforcement of security, right? QoS policy, right? Connectivity, audits, like auditing designs, and then of course, collaboration with team, like slow applications, there's so many things. And we've built a huge library of these network, and this is just a few examples, by the way, but we've built a huge library of these intents. So when you get NetBrain on board, you can of course, customize this and build your own intents and whatnot, but you also get to leverage the ones that is built in for you with that library. So what's the workflow, right? Raj, you showed us what an intent is. You showed us what NetBrain does. Great, but what's the workflow? How do we use NetBrain? Because imagine this. When I was working for my previous organization, there were about 7 different products that we had to go hop by hop to go find out a problem, right? If something went down, we go all hands. We had like 7 monitors and we used to go check different things at different tools. And then adding another tool to your tool set kind of becomes, it's crazy because, you have to go learn about that product and whatnot. So the simplest solution to that is do not add an extra workload to your process, and instead have NetBrain as part of your process, right? Replacing some of those steps. So think about NetBrain as the single source of truth, the single pane of glass. So here's what we did. We build intelligence from the live network, like I said, into NetBrain. We build intelligence from your tickets into NetBrain, all right? So NetBrain knows a lot of things. We also have the intent library that I spoke about, so it also knows all of the troubleshooting know-hows. Now think of this. A new ticket comes in. NetBrain looks at the ticket and says, hey, this looks like a QoS problem. It goes, checks its library and says, hey, by the way, I know how to solve this problem. So it goes and automatically performs diagnosis, not corrective. We're not pushing changes through NetBrain automatically, but we're performing diagnosis to find out what the problem is. And moving forward, that problem could be a monitor for NetBrain, so we can keep monitoring that problem so that it doesn't happen again. So we're not just taking care of those new tickets coming in, but we're also making sure that the existing policies are maintained so that we can prevent these network problems from happening the next time. Okay, great. So why do you need NetBrain? After all of that is definitely to eliminate this manual, this human errors that's always there, right? Looking at old videos, looking at this troubleshooting knowledges, you know, from like 6 months ago, not having our champion at work when things go down. All of these things are taken care of, right? Maintaining compliance in your network, right? Reducing downtime. Like we work with a e-commerce giant. They use NetBrain, and in the past, I think they've lost millions of dollars when they had an outage. Now with NetBrain, we've reduced that outage time that you know, coming back up kind of time by almost 70%. Okay, which means a lot of money to be saved there, right? And of course, last but not the least, this might look like a small thing, but eventually it becomes a big problem, is a config drift in the network. Especially if you have anything more than 1,000 devices, config drift is a problem, right? So reducing or eliminating that config drift in the first place. Like that's what you want NetBrain for. And definitely for visibility, mapping, and documentation. If you don't have that, then that's what you want to start with. But with that being said, I'm actually keeping an eye on the chat window as well. So feel free to just, you know, send messages over the chat if you have any questions that I can answer while I'm giving the demo. But with that, I'm going to just stop sharing my screen and switch over to my demo. All right. Just let me just make sure that I'm sharing my demo screen. There we go. Awesome. All right. Great. So let me start with the basics here. Let me put this guy back in. All right. So what do we do? Like I said, number one, we go discover your network, right? So what I'm going to do is, just for the sake of keeping the time in mind here, I'm just going to go rediscover some of the devices that we have here, just to kind of give you an idea. Now for discovery, what you need is SNMP, SSH or Telnet, however you're trying to connect to your devices, hopefully SSH, and that's it. So you need to have an access to that device, hit it with SNMP to kind of know what kind of device it is, and then you use SSH to log into those devices and gather that config intelligence that we have. And if you're looking at the discovery right now, you can notice three things. Number one, we're extremely fast. I've personally scanned more than 3,000 devices in an hour during an assessment. So we're very fast. Number two, we're multi-vendor. So most of the major vendors out there are covered, right? It could be, you know, your Cisco's, Juniper's, Palo Alto's, and whatnot. And lastly, we're not just scanning your network, but we're also collecting a lot of the details from your devices. So if I jump into any one of these devices, if I scroll down, look at all that, you know, all the show IP route, you know, show IP redirects, you know, show run, show CDP. So we're actually building that layer 2 and layer 3 intelligence while we are scanning your network, and all of that within a matter of minutes. And once we have discovered your network, you get a report, which is more important than the discovery, in my opinion, right? Like let's say for this example, for example, right? So there's 437 devices discovered, out of which only 370 of them are fully accessible, right? And some of them are are maybe half accessible, just SNMP, no CLI and whatnot. So you get a report of everything that you discover, and then you can go and start making those taking those corrective measures in your network. And the second thing is that we want to make sure that your data is not outdated, right? So what we can do is we can set a benchmark of this discovery. So we can have NetBrain go out every day, every week, or even every hour to your network, and then rediscover and recollect all this information that it has. This way, you're not looking at an outdated network, because a lot of times this happens. When there's an outage, we go back to look at the Visios and they're like, 3 months ago, 8 months ago, a year ago, and we're not even sure if it's the right network they're looking at. So we don't want that problem in NetBrain. So we can always keep your network up to date by collecting all this data that you see here, and then making sure that you're always cutting edge, right? You're always looking at the present. You're not troubleshooting in the past. So with that, what do we do? So here we've discovered, and I want to kind of start with this map right here. It's an amazing map. NetBrain is excellent at creating maps. Like I would say the best tool. I've been in the industry for some time now, but the best tool when it comes to creating network maps. And the reason behind that is all this intelligence that's built into these devices and the multi-vendor aspect of it. So you're looking at a map here, a bunch of wireless devices. Now you see a Viptela network, SD-WAN. Then you see some Cisco, some checkpoints, Juniper, and on the right-hand side, you see how it's getting connected with the AWS, the GCP, the Azure, the ACI. You just name it, and we got the technology, right? A few things we are missing here is, maybe like a Meraki. I know we're working on Mist. That's huge in the market right now. CloudGenix, right? There's so many other vendors. It's impossible to get everything on a single map. So just to kind of give you an idea of our hybrid visibility. So what do we do with these maps? Number one, you can just export them, create Visio maps. If that is something that you still your company demands you to do. You can export Word documents. You can run a health check, or you can also check like an end-to-end connectivity in your network. So let's say I want to go from one of my computers, desktops in my company, all the way to one of these applications running in the cloud. How do we do it? Because there's a handoff, there's some security groups, and there's this firewall policy. So how does everything work? And this is where NetBrain plays an excellent role. So we've got something known as the path analysis, where we can go from point A to point B using, of course, a deep network analysis. I'm going to talk about that. So let me just hit the path button first. As you can see, NetBrain is calculating that path real time, finding out where that hop is. There we go. That's how fast it is, by the way. So you see that I'm just going to go zoom out a little bit. So you see how it starts from this device right here. It goes through my built-in location, my SD-WAN, my firewalls, gets into my AWS cloud, all the way down to my EC2 instance. Speaking of having multiple folks troubleshooting a problem, this is amazing. Like NetBrain understands all the handoffs. It understands a lot of things about your network. Look at this. There's a checklist for every device that it goes through. This is not a trace route that you're looking at, right? You're looking at a deep network analysis. You're looking at VRFs, QoS, ACLs, NATings, IPsec, VPN tunnels, PBRs. Because honestly, I have a master's in network engineering, but if you expect me to know everything about every vendor out there, that'll not be fair. And if I need like 5 other people like me to go solve a problem, that is also very expensive. So you need something like NetBrain that can know everything about everything in your network, including the cloud, of course. We use API to connect with the cloud, so you can go and pull a lot of this information, right? VPC routing tables, security groups, and whatnot. So just to kind of recap on what I did so far, I discovered a network, and then I came to this map, and I ran a traffic path from point A to point B. And what I also like to do is I like to store all of my critical paths in this fashion. So this way I can keep an eye. I can say, and this sends me an email every day in the morning, right? So I can just look at my network and say, hey, looks like one of this application failed, and I want to know why it failed. And I can just go and check, hey, looks like the security policy blocking the traffic, right? Of course, I need to draw this out, but this just makes life easy for me. And I can schedule this to run, by the way. Right, it tells me fail to match security group rules. That's it. So imagine if you have hundreds of these critical paths and applications, just feed that into NetBrain, have NetBrain run them for you, and then it's going to go check them on a regular basis and then flag anything that's failed or change from the golden baseline. So until this, I consider this as just mapping and documentation so far because we've just discovered the network, and I'm just talking about how we can map application flows and whatnot. But how do we do performance analysis? Like how do we do policy checking? And for that, I'm going to go create a new map for you. So this way you have an idea on how NetBrain creates maps. It's very simple. So on this screen, I'm just going to go search for a device that I want to start working on. So let's say I'm looking for my Boston devices. So I'm going to type in US BOS. It does a string search and then finds every device in my network that has a BOS. I'm just going to go select a bunch of these. All right, there we go. Hit map. All right. Of course, it automatically does it for you. You don't have to. And and the reason I'm showing you this is just because I want to let you know that you can manually do this as well. But I like the automated method where I tell NetBrain, hey NetBrain, this is my Boston location. Next time I come in, I need a map ready. so it keeps my maps ready for me, right? I don't have to go create them. So good map here. Just a few devices. There's a couple of Cisco switches. I just want to keep this very simple so that everyone can understand this. So I'm looking at this amazing map. I can zoom in, zoom out, and you start seeing more information. You'll be like, Raj, why do you call this dynamic? It's because they are dynamic, right? You can just go find out things and information from this device real time. You can look at configurations, topology, data tables. At any given point in time, you can run comparison checks. You can issue live CLI commands, a lot of things. But the first thing that I do when I see a new network is I run a health check. So I'm just going to go run this quick health check here. There we go. So while this health check is running, I'm just going to go take a look at my Q&A. All right. So guys, feel free if you have a question, anything that you're not able to, or maybe anything. I speak fast, I understand. So if I miss on something, do let me know, and I'm gonna address that for you. So please feel free to text on the Q&A or the chat window. Great. So that's the result of my health check. As you can see, it's very detailed. Up, down status, traffic analysis. It just tells me basically my input traffic, output traffic, input errors, and whatnot. Okay. But that's just basic stuff. You can get this from any other monitoring tool, but just letting you know that NetBrain does this as well. The second thing I want to do is probably run a CLI command. So if I do this, I'm going to say, hey, let me run something very basic like a show interface. Okay, I'm just going to add this to all my devices, hit the run button, and look at that speed. It actually goes out there and it runs the show interface command on all these devices present. And this is how we do it. This could be 5 devices or this could be 500,000 devices. We can just scale up, bottom line, right? And very fast with this. And so a cool thing to notice is that there's also these timeline, right? So there's another aspect to this. And I'm a big fan of this because when it comes to troubleshooting, I want to know how things looked in the past. So if I hit the compare button and I select any 2 timelines and I do a quick comparison, it tells me exactly what changed. right? Imagine doing this with like routing tables when you're troubleshooting a problem, or firewall policies after a change. There's so many things, there's so many good use cases that can just come up with this comparison feature. So now you know that we can go out there and query devices. Now you know that we can do CLI commands, which enables us to do a lot of automation, because any information available through a CLI could be converted into what we call the network intents. And one of the network intents I want to talk about today is the route check. It's the most simplest intent anyone could think of, because all it does for me is that it logs into these devices and then uses a show command to show me what my routing table looks like, and then it does a quick comparison with the baseline to tell me what changed. And on a good day, I don't want changes in my routing table. For example, I've got there's a company in Hong Kong that uses NetBrain. They have 6,000 routers. Can you believe that? It's a large network and cable company. And we built an intent for them which can go monitor these routes every hour, because they have so many things going on in their network right now, right? So if anything changes, and if it's not like like an approved change, and you see a route change, it sends an email to their ticketing system or whatever. Like for example, let me just do this. I think I have an example here. So look at that, NetBrain alert, a BGP 64661 route change. That is so powerful. It tells me exactly on what devices happened. It happened on my ISP gateway device right here, and it tells me, hey, it failed the route check. And then if I scroll down, it also builds a map for me and takes me to the map with that device with that route failure. That's how cool this is. So it's not about, hey, do I need to learn all these cool things that Raj is doing on NetBrain? Do I have to become a NetBrain guru? Not really. You can build all this intelligence once into NetBrain, and then you can schedule them to run in the back in such a way that it can find problems for you and raise alerts. Okay, and of course map things out for you. This is just a lab, so naturally our out is not really a real device here. Just to kind of give an example. So if you take a step back, and if you remember what I said during PowerPoint, which was, I said a lot of things after that, so I don't hope everyone remembers everything, but an intent is basically looking at a device, looking at the data from that device, and then running a check against things which matters to you. And all of this can be done without scripting or writing a code. This is all no code. And what I can do is I can take this logic from this one device, and I can replicate that across my entire network. So I'm not just keeping this intelligence just to this one device, but now my entire network knows about this route change network intent. And similarly, we've built a lot of these intents in our library. Okay. On a day-to-day basis, a common user of NetBrain doesn't have to go inside the library to see how things work, okay? Because things are working, as I said, NetBrain is part of your workflow, so you don't really have to worry about, hey, let me go in and check that network intent. No, it's gonna go run automatically as long as you ask it to. But just to kind of give you a variety, right? We have a bunch of things here. BGP baselining, right? Check-in VAN link, ASA pair symmetry. Not even kidding. I ran this on a customer's environment and I found 3 pairs of ASA. As a matter of fact, one of these pairs even had different routing tables. They were just waiting for something to happen, right? Finding ASA pair symmetry checks, right? ACLs. You want to make sure that your ACLs are consistent across the board. If they're changing, then you got to be alerted that, hey, someone made a change in one of the policies, right? Switches, BGP check once again, HSRP check, OSPF check. I cannot be this guy who knows everything about everything, like I said, but I can feed that intelligence into NetBrain. And now what I can do is when you go ahead and onboard us and get NetBrain, we can help you. Evolving can help you with the library, right? A lot of these things do not come with the product, but then if you need something very specific, you can always go ask for help and we can build that for you. So that's how the intent library looks like. So with all this intelligence built into NetBrain, and one fine day, if I have a ticket coming in, right, look at this. By the way, I'm from Toronto, Canada. Okay, and up here, uh, let's say one fine day we had this WebEx meetings which are choppy. Okay, so hey, Toronto office experiencing choppy WebEx. What can we do? Great. There's not much you can do, right? You got to go find out the problem. But think about this. If you have NetBrain automation enabled, by the way, just to kind of address this, I'm using ServiceNow because that's the ticketing system we have internally. But NetBrain can work with pretty much any other ticketing system as long as they have an API. So if you're using Remedy, if you're using a Manage Engine, anything, right, and if it has an API that we can leverage, we can definitely work with you. So here, what basically happens is that ticket comes in, right? 11. What time is it? 8:56. Okay, the ticket comes in, and with this problem statement. So NetBrain is smart. It understands stuff from this problem statement. It knows that we're talking about Toronto location. It knows we're talking about a WebEx application. So what it does for me is it automatically classifies this based on the library. It classifies this problem to be a voice problem. And since it's a voice problem, it knows exactly what are the network intents that needs to go behind finding out the root cause of this problem. So here we see a bunch of greens and reds. Okay, don't have to worry about it. As a matter of fact, if I'm a help desk engineer, and if I log into my service desk or whatever service now here, and if I look at these greens and reds, this clearly tells me that even if I don't know what a QoS is, even if I cannot even spell QoS, I know that this is a QoS issue. I can just go escalate this to somebody who's really concerned, who can go fix this problem, rather than throwing blanket statements and calling everybody for help. So that's how powerful this becomes. And this ticket comes in at 8:56, and at 8:58 we've already troubleshot the problem for you. And I can open this up in NetBrain, by the way. We also have a portal access, so just in case you don't want to give NetBrain access to everyone in your organization, or maybe you want other folks from a different organization, if you're managing somebody else's network, let me just log in real quick. If you're managing a different network, you can just give them a read-only access of NetBrain. So they can just look at the map, a beautiful map that NetBrain creates for them, and also the diagnosis that's been happening, and you can also communicate with them. Like, what's the ETA on fixing this issue? So if I can send this over, did I send it? Yeah, I did, right? So if I come here, look at that. What's the ETA on this issue? And this is inside of NetBrain. And this is me, an engineer who's now trying to solve this problem. So for me, NetBrain has done pretty much everything. It has created a map, which is a live map, by the way. This map is not from 6 months ago. Secondly, it also has done a analysis for me. So it's done some greens and reds, and these are all network intents. And through one of the intents, it tells me that, hey, Rods, it looks like there's a bad QoS policy on one of these devices that needs to be fixed. Okay, this is almost like spoon feeding the engineer on exactly what they need to do. And that's amazing because we spend a lot of time looking for devices, looking for maps, and going through all of these sites and SharePoints and whatnot. And eventually, we're just wasting 70% of the time finding out like what the problem is, and fixing the problem is probably less than 30% of my time. But then if NetBrain can do that for you, imagine that kind of time it can cut down for you. And this is not just for incident resolution, but this is for everything inside of NetBrain. I can either use this in a triggered fashion, or I can use this in a preventive fashion, where I can set all these policies to run in the back, and then NetBrain running all these checks according to a timer. And if anything goes south, it's going to go open a ticket and say, hey, looks like one of this device failed on so-and-so policy. So just to summarize this for you, and I'm towards the end of my demo right here, just to kind of summarize this for you, we map your network, we discover your devices, we map your network. We also create fancy documents. So if you need reports, we can do that for you. We can learn about your application flows, like from point A to point B, and then create like a browser for you where you can go see all of your applications. We can also build intelligence, your intelligence. So this is your engineers know-how that we can build into NetBrain. So this way, NetBrain can do a lot of the troubleshooting by itself for you, okay, with the help of the network intents. And these intents can be used either in a triggered fashion, so like from a third-party tool, a trigger coming in, or in a preventive fashion where NetBrain can go open tickets and third-party tools saying that, hey, NetBrain found something, right? So both from a proactive and a reactive phases of troubleshooting we can help you with. But with that being said, that's my time, and I'm going to pass it back to Michael, but I'm going to be here to answer any questions that you throw up, that you throw in the Q&A session. And with that, Michael, the stage is yours.
Awesome. Thank you, Raj. I really appreciate it. Just really amazing the breadth of content that NetBrain covers and can take care of. I particularly like the portion of it where you've got the public cloud integrated with that. I think that's a black box for a lot of people, and being able to get some idea of where in that complex interaction that's really happening with a tool that you can still use on premises is fantastic. So we'll stop quick if there's any questions out there. Otherwise, we can wrap up for the day.
I have a couple questions, Michael.
Okay.
The first is to Raj. Do you have a test environment that I can try for myself?
Oh, absolutely. So if you can log into NetBrain, there's a trial. It's a NetBrain environment, so it's not going to be your environment, but then you can just go kick the tires a little bit and just move things around. You know, there's a nice map. There's beautiful maps in there that you can play with, and there's also some network intents that you can run and build by yourself just to kind of get some. And these are 14-day trials, by the way. So, but yes, that's available on the website.
Wonderful, thank you. The next question is, where does this fit with my monitoring solution, such as PRTG? Does it replace it or complement it?
That's a good question. And going back to the workflow, we're not replacing a PRTG or a SolarWinds, right? We're not in that industry. They're very good at what they do. We want to complement them. So think about this. SolarWinds or a PRTG is going to tell you that, hey, there's a fire, right? And NetBrain's going to point exactly where the fire is. Hey, I think it's in your kitchen, below the counter, right? So you need NetBrain for more of the action that you want to take to a fire that's coming in, rather than just, you know, flooding everybody with messages saying that, hey, there's a problem. Great, but how do we go fix that problem? And that's when NetBrain comes into picture. It's more of a troubleshooting platform than a monitoring tool. That's a good question. Yes, it can complement your PRTG in short.
Okay, great. Any other questions out there? Great. Well, I would just want to say thank you, Raj. This has been absolutely fantastic. I really appreciate the time. I appreciate NetBrain's partnership. And if you've got questions or would like to see a demo of NetBrain, see how it might work in your environment, at Evolving Solutions, we are really looking forward to having the opportunity to talk to you and explore how that would fit into your modern operations strategy. Again, I think this is a really great tool that illustrates what modern operations is all about, which is being able to get the processes and the tools that allow you to support your hybrid cloud environment, both inside of your traditional data center and your traditional world, as well as outside in a more complex network. And I think NetBrain really fills that need very nicely. So thank you everyone for joining today. Thank you, Raj and NetBrain, and we look forward to speaking with everyone next time.